And we're live.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Hello, everyone. Today we're here to talk about She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves before we start?
Sure.
There's people here that
It's
haven't.
been a minute since I've been on one of these. I think
Yeah.
Ancillary Justice was the last time for me. I'm Angela. My channel's Literature Science Alliance. I read this a year ago. I do remember quite a bit about it, so I should not be useless. But it has been a minute, so if I misremember something, grace, all the grace.
I think we're all on the same boat.
Yes.
Fun times. Yes, I'm Kayla. My channel is Crack Into a Good Book. I haven't been filming for a few months because we've been moving, but I was considering filming again soon. So, that's good.
Find what works for you, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's the key thing.
Yes. And my channel is Miss Richards Reads. I'm Stephanie. And I have slowly gotten back into filming, but life.
Yeah. Turns out jobs and other things make things busy.
I know.
What is this? Anyway.
Yes. So I'm going to put up the... Oops. It's been a while since I've hosted a live stream, too. I'm like, where are my banners? Okay. So we can start with non-spoiler. So yeah, I think I'm the one that read this the most recent. I just finished it.
You always do that, though.
I always do that. I did start it earlier than I normally do, so progress.
I apparently finished it June 9th, or sometime around then. So that simultaneously feels not that far away, but also it feels like eons away. So I don't know where I'm at.
June was like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Like I said, I read it sometime summer last year. I have a review for it on my channel, so probably around a week before that. Probably.
So overall, what did you think of it?
For me, it's definitely one of those books that I give 4 stars, but it's more out of appreciation than actual entertainment value. I think a lot of complaints that some people have for it are not actually complaints I have, because I like the watching a legend come into their own stories, and those typically have a more distant narrative to them because you're just seeing them accomplish their trials, etc. And that's what we're kind of seeing with is it Chu or Zhu? I can't remember how to pronounce the main character's name.
It's like a between those two.
Okay, but watching them go from their poor beginnings and becoming who they are, and how that, manifests itself, I always think is just so interesting. Mm-hmm. But I do think that means some people are going to be like, well, I never felt connected to them, because that's what happens when you do this narrative framework. I also thought that it was a choice to, a third of the way through, add in a bunch of point of views. I'm like, okay, well, here we are. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, because also up to that point, because this was back in the day, pitched as Song of Achilles meets Mulan. And I'm like, where is the Song of Achilles? ? I never expected it to be that. But I'm like, but where is the thing that made you think that at all? And that is when the new point of views come in. And I did like actually some of those point of views. And I liked that this was, again, another more bird's eye view tactical story, like the strategy and tactics. I wasn't ever boots on the ground with them, which I don't love as much in military fantasy. But again, I just felt like this was a very looking from above story, which I just think mileage is going to vary. And I am going to finish the duology because I want to know what's going to happen. Because by the end, I'm just very fascinating character study in this person. I'm just everything you did makes sense. And I don't know how to feel about you as a character anymore, which I'm sure we'll go into. But
yeah. I think I enjoyed the first third of it more. Or the most.
Same.
But yeah, I think I'm the same. I really gave it a higher rating because of what it does, instead of connecting with all of the characters and enjoyment like I normally do. And yeah, I didn't connect with them as much as I wanted, except for the main character, which is fine, but I get more enjoyment when I'm really in it with the characters.
Judith, you need to tell us in the comments in a succinct
Yeah.
way why you didn't like it as much on reread, because I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but Judith
That's
did ask some
interesting.
good questions. So maybe after Kayla gets to mention.
Sorry.
There's also a way to do it so Kayla doesn't get covered up by comments. But I don't in StreamYard. There's like a way of doing it.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
I don't know
Kayla
either.
can talk while you figure that out.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I rated it 3 stars. I was really loving that first third and was like, yeah, this is going to be great. I see why everybody loves this. And then that POV switch, and I was like, oh shit, I am not a fan of what's happening now. So yeah, I mean, I think the first part of it had a lot of tropes and stuff that I like as well. You know, like I love a good Mulan type boy or girl disguises herself as a boy or her brother or whatever. Definitely like that. I like a good, you know, military school, academics type setting. So we had that in the monastery. And I felt like I connected with the main character a lot more. But then after that, with the POV shift, I feel like we just completely lost track of the main character, honestly. And I didn't care about the other characters at all. And so at that point, I started to really struggle to get through it. So yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of appreciate what it's doing, but at the same time, I don't know that I really enjoyed the experience.
So I said I was very close up, Stephanie. I was
sorry.
unprepared.
I'm
At
sorry.
least I'm in the center of my screen. It worked out, but
I know. I have no idea how to make it.
I don't know.
Well, make the comment go away. There is like a button that can be pressed or something. I've just never done it.
I know. I don't
But so I'd be interested to know how someone who knew the history really well would feel about the book. So, I mean, I don't know, like the only person who I know who read it who might have known that history didn't really like it that much. So I don't know if that's like enough to carry you. And I think that makes sense, right? Like there are plenty of Greek retellings that don't always land, and we all kind of know some of them fairly well. So I don't know. Like I am ignorant of it, and I still liked it, so I don't know. But to be succinct, Judith was saying she found the second time around just couldn't fall into the story as much. And the second time around, I was like, where am I? I know where this is going, and I feel like you aren't taking me there. I think there is a pacing issue at like the 3/4 or 2/3 mark, if I'm remembering correctly. That was a point where I'm like, I need us to get through this transitionary period.
Yeah.
Where are we going? And
yeah.
I could feel it was a chessboard situation. Like I felt it as okay, we are setting things up. We are moving the pieces. We are setting up the backstabbies and like all of the things. And then I actually did feel like I got a pretty reasonable payoff at the end, but I was never emotionally gutted. Like there are some scenes that were obviously meant for fan art and emotionally gutting situations, and I just was like not there. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Because I'm one of those that I cry at everything in books, and I did not feel great emotions.
Yes.
Other non-spoiler things I wanted to bring up is that this was as low magic as I thought it would be, but I just want to emphasize extremely low magic. There are ghosties, and I still don't understand them. And there's a mandate of heaven that I still don't understand. Those are the magics. That's it. I've succinctly told you the magics.
I will say the audiobook, the ghosts are terrifyingly creepy.
Who's the narrator?
That's cool.
I don't remember. I'll look it up, but they do a really good job with
and also,
the audiobook.
I think the discussion of gender is probably one of the reasons why I haven't rated so high.
Sorry, I just saw Judith's comment. Yes, I know what you mean.
Yes. I was thinking of a different scene. I was thinking of the Song of Achilles vibe scene. Okay.
Yeah.
But the discussions of gender, I thought, between is his name Olong Oyang? What's his name? Our other name.
Oh my god, I don't even remember. I'm like, I don't.
Okay, well,
like
there's a main character. His name starts with an O, and I don't have a physical copy, but I think it's Oyang.
Yeah. Something like that.
Ouyang. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the discussions of gender around him and then around Shu is just very interesting because they are like two sides of a coin sort of in the discussion. And I I think that's the part that I think this book does in a way that I have not seen it done in other fiction of this sort, and that I thought was really compelling.
Mm-hmm.
And also just how it motivates. Okay, Natalie. No, so that's the person who did Daughter of the Moon Goddess, right?
I think it was Emily Wu Zeller that did Daughter of the Moon.
Mine was not Emily, I think.
Maybe I am thinking of someone else.
All right. Well, because I remember I always look when I do my wrap-ups because I always put down the narrators. Yeah, no, it's Natalie. We're on a first-name basis.
Who did I just listen to? Anyway, I listened to somebody else with Emily Wu Zeller recently.
No, but Natalie Naudus, if I'm saying that last name correctly, is amazing for audiobooks. Like one of the few female or femme presenting narrators that doesn't make me hate their male voices. Because like that's my thing with both like voice timbres. When they try to do the other, I'm like, why are we doing whatever? I would rather you keep in the same voice than switch it up. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I did think that was interesting, and it does, I think the book specifically did mention like their connection throughout the book and how they felt kind of drawn to each other in some weird way. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think there were some interesting discussions on gender and gender identity and like, I don't know, and that it's okay to not really have it figured out because I feel like Jew, I don't know if that's, I could have just completely butchered that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like at the beginning, they're kind of very like, they don't want anything feminine at all. And then kind of as the book progresses, it's like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit more comfortable with this side of myself. So that was kind of interesting to explore.
Yeah. Yes. Marlene has a good question. So I think, so I would hesitate to even, so I wouldn't give this book to someone who likes historical fiction because I don't actually think it's that much of a historical fiction book. At least not what people think of when they think of historical fiction, right? Like, I mean, that's like giving someone Circe and saying, here's this historical fiction book. Like, I don't think it's the same. I think if someone liked Circe or Song of Achilles, I might, maybe, but not even then, I'm not sure. Because it's actually more of low magic military fantasy. Like, it fits into that, and it's just very historically based.
Yeah, it kind of is like, not that they're remotely the same, but like Outlander is a historical fiction with fantastical elements. And even though this isn't really a historical fiction, it's just got some elements, but I wouldn't really call it a full fantasy.
No.
And it's like, I can't remember, Marlene, if you read Grace of Kings, but it feels more similar to how that is historically derived.
Yeah.
And actually both of them have elements of like telling the legend story and stuff like that. I think I like Grace of Kings significantly more. I give them both 4 stars though. So I don't know what ratings mean.
Well, you can enjoy things in different ways. Yeah, I think I rated Grace of Kings 4 stars in this 3. So I definitely preferred that one. I kind of wonder, with that similarity, if like, I mean, I haven't read that many like Chinese fantasy books, but I wonder if they're more of this light magic sort of variety.
Not always.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and even Grace of Kings isn't going to stay that way, from what I've heard.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, and also when I met Ken Liu, like he thinks technology is very magical, so it's going to come. He's like a sci-fi fantasy author. It's just going to be all over the place. I mean, I do think. So I've read now 3 adult Chinese-inspired fantasies, and they all kind of do stuff with pacing that Western audiences seem to have issues with. But I think that pacing is actually more comfortable in those stories of like kind of some parts go by faster than other people would have wanted to stay in. And I think that comes along with just epics. Like even in Greek mythology and Western mythology, there are stories that we are like, well, we know these tropes in this part of the story. So this part goes by faster and this part goes, So I think I've noticed that trend. I'm not willing to say that it's like a hard and fast rule, but
yeah, and similarly too, I know we're not comparing for the whole live show, but Grace of Kings, we said, some of it was kind of zoomed out and then you'd zoom in. And I feel like this kind of did that a little bit too. which some people liked and some people didn't. So
You're allowed to make judgments on just the one book they give you. That's totally
yeah.
That's what I do all the time. No, I think the sequel, if I had to guess, I don't think it's going to have more magic. If I had to guess, because I don't think we're really set up for that. I think it's more going to be following the journey of the two characters that we set up now that they've gone over this one barrier in their character growth and development, and like what are the repercussions of these huge decisions that they've made. And like, I mean, because I think both of them did some stuff.
Just cracking up. Yeah.
Probably. I don't, or maybe that's when they all go get their drinks. Like that's the part where it's like, okay, everyone, bathroom break. Like, you know, during like hockey games, you know, like,
I can totally see that.
that's like there's no intermission. There's just the listing of the ships.
Yeah. That's funny.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Any other non-spoiler thoughts? Marlene, do you have any other questions that you can answer? Oh, you already gave us a very good one, but no. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Spoilers. Warning. If you haven't read the book, now's your chance to leave.
Okay. So, what about that time that they killed a kid? That was something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my moment.
Mm-hmm.
That was my, because I think up to that point, it truly wasn't like they're a morally great character. They were just a character that was taking opportunities to get power. I think that's a very different thing.
Yeah.
And then the natural conclusion of, well, I need to do everything to get power, and I have a mandate, and we can't have another man. I was like, I felt like their partner. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
That was a lot.
I had to reread that part because
It was like, one of those deaths that was like not gut punchy, but was shocking.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Also remind me, did Ouyang kill his best friend, or how did his best friend die? Cannot remember. I can't remember the best friend's name.
Literally just read this.
Stephanie, you need to read at a lower speed.
Well, no, that's part of it too, is I feel like I didn't connect with it as much, so a lot of it I forgot.
Yeah. I know, like even trying to remember some of this stuff, like I don't remember a lot of what happened.
Yeah,
I do think
I attach stuff with characters and I didn't connect.
So what I thought happened, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, it's based off someone making art and then they were wrong. I thought Ouyang stabbed him. And like that's the moment that I think fan art was made for, of like they have this bond and this like unspoken like love for each other that is more than just brotherly love, you know, that could have evolved into more, but society and power imbalances and then the whole gender thing. There were just too many things, especially Ouyang's like whole like revenge plot arc, which is like its own thing that was somehow triggered by Zhu doing a thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is all kind of coming back to me now.
There was a confrontation between Ouyang and Zhu, and then because of whatever happened, he's like, great, now I have to actually betray. This is the triggering force to start my betrayal. And I never quite got that. And then it had to do with ghosties, because there's always ghosties around.
Yes.
Him. But like, did you notice, like, so there are two stories in here, like legend stories, that were in Grace of Kings. Like what happened with Zhu, the whole going to a monastery and begging to be let in, was mentioned in Grace of Kings, not for Mata, but for like Mata's ancestor. And then for the Ouyang being like the one left behind but castrated, that was a different thing that they did to families. They would kill everyone off but one. Like I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. I don't know.
You do remember more than I do.
I don't know. I retain some stuff some of the time.
Well, and I didn't even like blow through this like I normally do. But I think I just didn't connect with the characters as much, and so I only remember the big
You did not
moments.
even remember the
Or,
big moment. Killing
like,
your best friend's a big
I
moment.
didn't say all
Yeah.
the big moments. I said
No, I for sure
big
forgot
moments.
about that. Also,
I do remember the scene with the knife, though. Once you mentioned it, it was like, oh yes.
Another scene I thought was cool is when they had a temporary truce, because I think Oh Yang's better with a bow, and so had to get the note into the place.
Yes, I did like that.
That was a good moment. Oh, and Judith has something. Yeah. No, and I think taking Destiny by the horns was a big thing in this. Making your own story. And I think that was interesting with Ju, how they, for a long time, you felt like maybe they were actually too much taking the identity of their brother. Not because that was bad, but because, like, well, where's your identity?
Yeah.
And then I think there was a weird thing where they actually did just become that person, become who that was. And I don't know, I just want to see the result of all of that. Like, where are we ending up? Because I didn't actually look up anything about the Ming Dynasty, because I want to finish the duology first, just to see. Because I presume that there will be light spoilers. Like, obviously, authors can gender bend things, but I feel like there's some. If you're like, this is inspired by the formation of X Dynasty, there are some parts that are gonna show up.
Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although, like, whenever I think of like A Song of Ice and Fire, which is what it's based off, the War Between the Roses and something.
War of the Roses, yeah.
Yeah, it's that. And I don't think the Red Wedding happened there, so I guess there are always still surprises.
True.
I know you haven't read it, Stephanie.
It's okay.
You had to have at least heard of the Red Wedding. It's pervasive.
I mean, I've heard of it. I just don't really know what it entails.
My
But
cat just rolled on his back. Oh my god. See, can I get you guys a good image of him?
I see him.
I love it when they do that.
Oh my god.
Ciao.
He's stealing the show.
All right, almost knocked everything over for that, but it's fine. It all worked out. Lots
That's
of
right. Yes, obviously.
I'm just saying, like, I actually think I would have liked reading A Song of Ice and Fire more if I actually knew it was historically based. I just read it, and the prologue of that book is so good, and then we never get payoff on page of the prologue of that book, and I get mad when I think about that. And the dogs are underutilized. Like, truly, I just get angry.
I just learned that it's historically based.
Yes, it is.
But I've only
I mean, you look at the
one
maps, it's like, oh yes, this is England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
oh,
Well, what do you think of the romance?
Which one?
The one with our main character.
Shu and Ma.
That sounds vaguely familiar. Yes, I can't remember anyone's name from this book. I swear.
Yeah, the main. Yeah.
Yes.
I could have taken it or leave it.
I think I actually did like it. The bathhouse scene was kind of spicy. I liked it. It was more spicy than I was expecting. Like, truly, I was like, oh, here we are. Okay.
Yeah. That one scene, I was like, oh, okay. That's happening right now.
I know. I was listening to the audiobook and it's
God.
Whoa, what is going on?
Yeah, no, so that was something. I thought it was also I think it was interesting. So for Ma, I don't actually know if we really get a clear, like, in-world vocabulary answer for their sexual orientation, but I think they were also on the fly discovering, I am, attracted to this, but is it just because it's this person, or is this, I think there was also some inner stuff. And I actually liked when we had Ma point of views. Like, I thought, I don't know. I think her view of the world was interesting because she's still a privileged individual, but she's been a privileged individual in a minority status of being a woman. Who, like, her family definitely was just like, oh, how are we going to use you to our advantage, sort of thing.
Yep.
Oh,
it's truly like the whole book, and it's so distant, and then
yeah, it's like, oh my.
I think the best scenes that I remember the most are things like that, where they're exploring or they're thinking about. Like, there's one scene, and I can't remember the name, but it was the woman leader who was like, I can't be in power because I'm a woman. But then,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
but there was a moment when she was like, oh, she's pregnant. And she's like, I only remember that or realize that because they have the same anatomy or something similar, like gender related to that. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah,
Things like that.
the way that they were able to cross both worlds, they weren't like there came a point where they weren't pretending to be in the society. They truly actually embodied a lot of the quote unquote toxic masculine traits. Like they were things that they believed in. They weren't trying to not get caught anymore. There came a point where that wasn't the lie, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. I did like I think part of why I get so crushed by the killing of the kid is like when they're all in the bed together and having like a family moment and like Ma's thinking about the future. It just feels nice. Like moments like that, I'm like, oh, I'm rooting for this situation. This is nice. This is lovely.
Nope. We can't have nice things.
We didn't get a lot of nice, lovely moments.
No, that's why I was like, this is something.
Yeah.
But I don't remember much more about her. And like I think, okay, where this book ended, we still don't have a unified land because this is a story, I think, of unifying a land. I think, and in theory, Ju is the person doing this, hypothetically, because I actually think their name is actually verbatim the name of the Ming Dynasty leader who unified the land. So I think in theory, that's what we're doing here. But I can't remember where all the pieces are left off, and I have a feeling you guys won't either. But I feel like that one merchant lady you were talking about has her little peninsula area. And I know Ouyang has his folks, because somehow I think he got control, even though he just killed someone who was in control of that. And then we have Chu. So I feel like Ouyang and Chu are now on opposite sides again after the temporary truce. So we have like 3 players, or am I missing a 4th player? I feel like there's 3.
I think there's 3. And see, even the ending, I don't fully remember where all the pieces are. I just remember like the little moment, like when she saw the ghost of her brother or things like that.
Or when she did show her mandate of power.
Yeah, not, oh, this person ended up here and this person ended up here. And in the next book, we're just,
The mandates of power also vaguely reminded me of like in the Poppy War when like a god chooses you. And I wonder if that's kind of what it is. I'm not really sure.
Well, because they are different colors, right?
Yeah, hers is white, right?
Yeah. Could be. I don't know.
I mean, like, this has been so low magic. No real... I mean, like, Grace of Kings even being low magic, we at least had gods chatting. Like, being real snarky in the background, my favorite thing. Love it. I love snarky gods, like, so much.
Yes.
Yeah, we also didn't really get a lot of humor in this one either, now that you mention it. Which I wasn't expecting it to be humorous, but...
I mean, I remember reading the first chapter of this book being like, oh, this is grimdark. Like, I still hold that I think this is more grimdark than a lot of books that people claim as grimdark. Because, like, that was just harrowing. The scenes of famine and what was happening and, like, how she was almost sold off. Like, that whole beginning section was so atmospherically dark. And I really liked that. I don't think I was as sad to lose the school setting as you guys were. I mean, I like a school setting, but again, I guess accidentally comparing this to the Poppy War, it did exactly what the Poppy War did, so I wasn't like upset.
And see, I haven't read the Poppy War, so maybe that's why, you know.
Poppy War and this is interesting to compare because if you have read both, Rin versus Ju are 2 very interesting characters who are put in circumstances out of their control and trying to grab for destiny and power in their own ways. I like Ju's version more than Rin's, but Rin has other extenuating circumstances. So she's got her own mandate of power, I guess. I don't know. She's got her own thing. Yeah. But no, Poppy War does the thing where the first half, why it's kind of a good dark YA to new adult crossover is the first half is school setting. Kind of standard outcast in a school setting, trying to make friends, make it work, and then it goes into like military fantasy.
Yeah, I think the stuff that stuck with me the most was the stuff at the beginning, but again, we were focused on one character and really in their head, and
Which I do think it was important to have that, so that when that character that I did grow attached to and like, because I saw them at their weakest, their most vulnerable, and I saw them fighting for their own independence and, you know, to have their own life. When they start doing stuff that I vehemently disagree with, I'm like then torn, because I'm like, but why?
And I hated the monk. What was his name?
Oh yeah,
Prefect or something.
like her best friend. I don't remember his name.
No,
Are you talking
no.
about the one who like keeps
teacher.
trying to get people in trouble?
Yes.
Yeah.
'Cause
Whatever
he's
his
so
name is.
Just
I
but
did
love the whole
enjoy
scene where I said I love the whole scene where Zhu was trying to take a bath privately.
Yeah.
And then he thinks that Zhu was in there with a nun, and he just races and opens all the doors, and Zhu has to escape through a window in a latrine,
Mhm.
and then sets up that whole thing in like a minute.
I did enjoy that.
I loved that whole scene.
I mean, it seems like that in like the beginning of this book that does make me excited for other works by this author once this duology is done. Like I guess I haven't even said my biggest complaint is that there's an astronomical use of similes and none of them make sense.
Yes, that's what I was going to bring up. I don't know, the first chapter, I was like, oh my god, what is happening here? Am I even going to get used to the style, or is it just going to be like grating the entire time? And I think I did get used to it, but it was still just, there was a lot of.
Well, and the author is self-aware about the similes too. Like I remember seeing a tweet by them where they were like, because I think it was like one of those all the authors were roasting themselves kind of like Twitter thing. And like theirs was like about knowing there are too many similes but keeping them anyways. I'm like, yeah, you should cut some of those though. Like really. Truly.
Yes.
Yeah, readers notice those things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and like it was a direct comparison to when I read Grace of Kings recently. I was like, oh, you're using a lot of similes too, but I know what these mean. You're comparing it to flowers or animals or something.
Yeah,
like I get this.
I feel like his are so much more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember
I
certain one-liners, and then in this one, I couldn't tell you a good simile.
Well, and like I think also like maybe I read a lot of books that have this just as many similes, but if they work as intended, I shouldn't notice that I'm reading a simile.
Yeah.
Like that's I shouldn't notice it, and like so maybe that's a slightly knock to Grace Kings that I did notice some of them, but I was also like, but that's fine. You're describing this like an animal. I have like a placeholder in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the similes in this, I was like, I do not know what you are trying to evoke in me as a reader right now. Like I do not know. Yeah. I reread it. I'm like, I'm dumb. These are all English words. I don't know what they mean. Like it was truly one of those things.
And this is their debut work, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think I'm a little more forgiving when it's a debut. But yeah, that is something that grated on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to like this so much more than I
did.
Well, that's because everyone lied to you. I still hold the Sapphic trifecta. Everyone loves this one the most. It's not the best. No. Everyone lying. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, and I purposely was like, okay, I heard a lot of people say don't listen to, it's Song of Achilles meets Mulan. So I didn't really, I saw the Mulan similarities, but I wasn't going in thinking. So that was a plus.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I was just really hoping to connect with the characters more than I did, because that's my main, thing.
I think for me, like, I can still get behind a plot-driven book, but it just moves so slow in places. And I started skimming because it's like I literally do not care about anything that's happening right now. So it got to be a little bit painful to get through, and I don't know. I hoped it would kind of regain that feeling I had in the first part of the book, where I was really enjoying what was happening, but it just did not.
Yeah. Maybe if it had been a little tighter.
I mean, it's already a pretty short fantasy.
Yeah, that's because the audiobook was really not that long.
It's like, what, 400 pages? I mean, you have it in front of you. It's like,
yeah, it's 411 pages.
That was something I did like about it.
Is not small. I mean,
yeah. I think part of why I have such strong memories of this is I first buddy read it with a friend, and we both had about the same rating. I think they gave it 3.5, I gave it 4, and then I did a different book club on it and stuff. So it's just all been in my head, and I guess I just haven't let it leave. Who knows why? I still probably don't remember enough to just read the second book, but I don't like it enough to reread it, so that's not happening.
Yeah.
Although, now as you told me the audiobook is by Natalie, maybe I'll just like...
The audiobook, it was really, really good. She did a great job. And I think that's how I got through it you know, as fast as I did. Because if I had physically read it, it would have been hard to find the motivation to pick it up in parts.
Yeah.
I am now remembering, I read it almost exactly a year ago because I was like, oh, I was in Cleveland. I read it in July of last year. Because I'm like, oh yeah, that buddy read. You were not in your own home. You were somewhere else trying to find out how to send Voxer messages. I think because of my of legend stories, I was actually okay once the pivot happened and things became suddenly very distant, like from the school to whatever. But I do think that it definitely really changed. And like to do something that abrupt is just, it's going to be a hard choice. Like it's going to be hard for a lot of readers. Like this just is like part of it. Because I kind of liked that we didn't spend a lot of time in some of these battles. Like I kind of liked that they was just kind of quick, like, okay, we're just showing all these things and we're showing the like, it was like watching a football movie. You know, I'm only seeing the good scenes. I'm not watching the entire game, is how I felt the military stuff was handled.
Yeah.
Feel like me, like I'm only going for the halftime show. I don't care about this.
Well, I mean, I'm not a military fantasy reader. Like those are the hardest parts for me, and like Malazan and stuff like that, you know. And the only reason I like it in Malazan is we go like hyper focused in to like the crew of people that I really like.
Oh boy.
We have a dog yelling and my cat's yelling, but I'm not supposed to respond to my cat, so sorry guys. He's yelling at Brian being in the bathroom. It's ridiculous.
Oh dear.
Butch was yelling at Lucy for about to get on my chair.
Oh.
He's feeling very sassy this weekend.
Anyone in the chat or here have any other spoiler thoughts?
I feel bad because I feel like in other books I have more strong opinions about stuff that I can discuss more.
Yeah.
And on this one it was just kind of...
Yeah. I'm struggling to come up with anything to say.
Yeah. I really appreciate what it did, and I liked the themes that were explored.
I am glad that we chose this because I think this would have been one that I would have like postponed reading forever, honestly, or like some amount of time. So I think this was helpful to have that push to finally pick it up. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to read the sequel or not. Well, I'll see what other people think of it and then decide, perhaps.
Yeah, I definitely want to read the sequel, and I think I'm going to do it on audio again because she did such a good job.
If you read the sequel to this before Desolation Called Peace, I will riot.
I plan on reading Desolation. I have it on my list. I was just finishing this one first.
Also, quickie, why did Evie hate memory? I still can't watch the live. I still have avoided it.
It was the whole, I feel like I should like this, but it just didn't mesh.
Okay.
Kind of thing. It wasn't like a specific, I hated that, or, you know.
Oh, but no, I mean, I think it's my least favorite of the Sapphic trifecta. But I mean, I think because of the character study. So more from like my academic reading brain. Like I think I threw it more into my literary or heavier sci-fi brain.
Yeah.
But it's like a fantasy escapist book. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked the parts where she was more exploring the gender part than the actual military and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like following Ju as a character, and I feel like that was where the POV shift like really killed me, because then it was like we were just so far back, and I don't know. I just want more time to see how like the struggles with power really like affected them, and you know, we get some of that obviously, and some of the gender exploration, but I just would have preferred sticking with them the entire time.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's interesting, and like I think what the book is positing is that there truly is not a huge internal struggle for Ju in terms of doing what needs to be done to maintain power, which I think is rough for us as people who are used to more flawed characters or relatable characters. Like, I think this is a person who's been in an oppressive world, who has been oppressed, who does not think twice about making sure that they can be in power. And it's not even like, you know, in Grace of Kings where Cooney has these ideals that he's striving for and has this plan and wants maybe not even the highest power, but like wants to be in a position to help others. I feel like it's actually very self-serving what this character is doing.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, it's an interesting character study. Like, I don't think we have many characters like that right now. So, especially as like main protagonists, like as villains, maybe. But
yeah,
for sure villains, but not really protagonists.
Yeah.
At least that I can think of.
Yeah.
I still need
like,
to
I think Ouyang was also almost more sympathetic because he lost his entire family.
I didn't like Ouyang really at all. I know where you're coming from though, but
he wasn't my favorite, but I agree. I
struggled.
sympathize with some. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think the book gave you, like, if we had equal time with Ouyang and Ju's backstories, I think it would be different. But instead, we get the flashbacks of Ouyang retroactively while they're reflecting, instead of like we saw Ju and famine, we saw them fight their way into the monastery, and then we kind of had like the whole montage. We've been at the monastery for 4 years. Here's my best friend, you know, like that whole. Here's the time I tried to take a bath and tried not to get caught. You know, like those are the. And we don't really have that with Ouyang, and like he's a very bitter individual, and I think reading bitter characters is hard. But I think he comes by it honestly. Like again, I think intentionality, it doesn't make it fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I appreciate, like I said, that's why it's a 4-star, is more on the appreciation side and less on the entertainment side.
Yeah.
Oh, good question.
Gender exploration, Anna Marie McLemore is like 10 out of 10. Is my favorite. I think if you wanted a story like this is a weird recommendation. Okay, so I just need everyone to hold on because this is a weird one. Like, it's not normal. But like, if you wanted to love this book and you didn't, and you wanted stuff that like is like military and depression, and like you wanted these things, and you want like messy characters that you want to be latched onto, may I suggest 9 Fox Gambit?
Ooh. It's an interesting recommendation.
Ooh.
I feel like General Jadao and Paris are not dissimilar to the dynamics we have here. And so it's a weird recommendation, but I just think it accomplishes in a short amount of time a lot of what this didn't for some people.
And we read that like over a year ago for book club, and I still remember stuff like that.
Yeah. Same. I liked that book a lot more.
Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, I guess in terms of the gender, it's subtext, it's not text, but even the author has talked about it. General Jadao, the subtext is that they are actually trans, but it's not the text of it, because the author of that series is trans. I'm trying to think other authors that have done stuff like this. I mean, I think the other Sapphic trifecta book, The Unbroken, Terrain is very gender fluid and awesome, and I love Terrain with all my heart.
I still need to read that one. That's the only one that I have not read yet of the
That one was fantastic.
And that's my favorite. So that's my unpopular opinion. That's my favorite of the Sapphic trifecta. Everyone loves, I mean, I like it too, Jasmine Throne.
I loved Jasmine Throne, so I'm curious to see how this compares. I
think they're very different. But I mean, it's similar in that there's weird power imbalances between the love interests and imperialism, colonialism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Unbroken is lower magic, which I expected. I think what was weird about The Unbroken is I was like ready to not like it because it was in theory military low magic fantasy, and I'm like, all right, strap in because it was for this.
Oh, wow.
I was like, and then I bought a copy of the book, and I was like, Terrain is everything. Terrain also has arms that are beautiful. I'm just saying. But I think that's a character, and that's also a gender fluid, non-binary author telling a story with some relatability there. Chorus of Dragons has some very good representation for gender exploration and sexual orientation exploration. It's not historical. It's just a fantasy series.
But it's so much fun.
It's a blast.
I just bought books 3 and 4. So now I have 2 through 4 that I need to read. Yeah.
Oh, and then the author recommendation that I have, and we've already talked about him, but I actually want to talk more about his short stories. So Ken Liu, The Paper Menagerie, if, in terms of, and I actually, this is when people also like are talking about the poppy war and stuff. He, in 60 pages or 50 pages, has more of an impact and information with historical SFF than any other long form that I've read. Like, in terms of especially like 20th century history. And then like, so, and then he has a one historical fantasy longer piece in Paper Menagerie that is actually more about like Chinese immigration and the work in California and the mines and things like that out there. And then obviously Grace of Kings is loosely inspired by the Han Dynasty, but also is its own thing. Wait, Angela, like, you know, okay, it was so funny. So being at the talk, so everyone is assuming all the time that Grace of Kings and the Dandelion Dynasty is just like this Chinese epic. And it has some allusions to Chinese stuff, but like the writing system is not Chinese writing. It's actually completely 3D. Like it's completely like a Braille symbol writing system. And everyone just assumes it's like Asian writing. And then he's like, and everyone's like assuming I'm talking about this story, like alluding to this story, that this epic that's written in China, but actually I'm directly referring to Anglo-Saxon poetry in these moments.
Huh.
So there's a lot of typecasting that's going on there. But no, he's a brilliant man. But I've been saying that even before I met him and got very biased by going to a talk. So I just think he does a really good job at historical, especially Chinese historical stuff, and doing it in an impactful way. Like if you want efficiency, like gosh, I've been gut punched so many times in those stories. So many times. Like the Literomancer, Stephanie, you remember that? That was a lot.
That whole collection, I was just...
Well, and like his philosophy is that like we all think about ideals and how we want to strive for ideals, but at the end of the day, a philosophy, an ideal, a religion is an abstract concept that is then held by individuals, so you cannot understand the effects till you talk about the individual. And then so that's why we get so attached to the individuals of his stories. Mm-hmm. And then
it's just good.
It's so good. Judith, did I answer the question? Is there another question? I probably could have been without the spoiler banner. I don't think we talked about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it really matters. This is obviously another, professional production of the Space Sirens Book Club.
Yeah. Any final thoughts about She Who Became the Sun?
Mm-hmm. I kind of wish the ghosts weren't there. It's truly where I'm at. I think they were more distracting to me than helpful.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay. Well, next month we are taking a turn and reading middle grade, reading Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, and I'm very excited because I've heard it's very, very good.
I need to go find an audiobook of that.
And I love the cover.
Yeah, I already read it because my library had it available. And I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do with middle grade at this point in my life, but
I can't believe middle grade won the nomination. I was like, oh, I'm just going to put this in there because I want to read it, but it's probably not going to win. And then it did, and it was like,
What I've noticed is middle grade, okay, I say this with such a small sample size of both, but in general, middle grade works better for me than young adult.
Yeah.
I mean, they're different. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I had such a simple goal this year of reading 6 total graphic novels and middle grade. So 6 things that were one of those 2 things, and I've read 1.
Oh boy.
Thing. I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Have you read Mooncakes yet?
No, I've only read The Last Conquista, which is amazing, which is stunning.
Okay. I'm just saying, I think that would be a really good one.
I just think,
adorable,
I think I'm just
and I've read it twice, and I love it. I
think my issue is, and like the reason I like The Last Conquista is it's anxiety-inducing, intense, and stressful, and not like a cozy good time. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the times people read middle grade for the cozy good time nostalgia feels, which I did like in Once Upon an Eid, which is another middle grade I really like. But then when I do read like the cozy things that everyone likes, even an adult like this, I'm like, it's not bad, but it's not what I read for. When I want cozy, I want to put on the Great British Bake Off or something. Like I have other outlets for that. Like I still need that. I'm a human. I require cozy. But
That's fair.
or I could
Well, I'm
just reread
interested
it.
to see if you like it.
I think I probably will. I think, and I also do better with audiobook for middle grade because the narrators usually like bring it more to life. Whereas I think some of the middle grade I've read, like Percy Jackson, I'm like, when I read this in my head, I've made it very boring.
Mm.
I have accidentally taken out all of the whimsy.
I don't know. I feel like, I mean, it very much depends on the narrator in the book, but I've read or I've listened to some middle grade books where the narrator just like trying to do little kid voices pissed me off. I was just like, I can't do this. This is grating. So I'm curious, yeah, if you
I mean,
listen
the
to
one for Percy
one.
Jackson is really good.
Yeah.
Which is
This
unsurprising.
Amani Parks.
I don't recognize
She
that
is
name.
best known for her role as young Nala in the Broadway show The Lion King.
Really?
Okay, but that's the Broadway show. I don't know who was young Nala in the original Broadway show. Was it even the original, or was it just one of the many, 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 many?
I didn't
many...
say original. I said Broadway show.
Yeah.
Well, no, but there's an original Broadway
show, yeah.
So, like, when you have, like, Broadway shows, there's the original cast album, and then there's everything else.
Yeah.
Also, my hottest take is I don't like Broadway on Lion King Broadway. And I say that owning so many Lion King things. Like, in arm's reach, I have at least 5 Lion King things. And I really don't like the Broadway show. It's, like, my hottest take. Hotter than my Lord of the Rings is only 3.5 stars take.
Are we talking about books or movies?
I rate movies on a different scale.
Okay.
I think the movies for me are only 7 though, so probably about the same.
Oh.
The books I understand. The movies.
Yeah.
I have actually watched them so many times and I still do not actually understand. I try. I try really hard. And I'm like, there's so many other things I could do with these hours of my life.
I mean, they are long. That's fair.
Like, The Fellowship of the Ring is a very boring movie.
Disagree.
Exactly.
Stephanie and I are on the same page.
Like, you may be banned later. I don't know yet.
I mean, you can, but then who would talk to you about She Who Became the Sun? If I was not here, what would have happened today?
Stephanie and I would have been like, do you remember anything from this book? No. Cool.
Oh, I'm so sad.
I don't know. I just like I'm sad that this didn't stick with me as much as I hoped it would.
What is this technique? I have tried watching it with friends.
I am interested in this technique as well.
I've tried watching them, and so after I'd watched them my whole life, and then when I was 23, I read the book and then watched the movie for the book, and then so you know how everyone gets so mad about the Hobbit movies? Like everyone hates the Hobbit. I don't hate the Hobbit movies.
I think I mean, they're not. They could be better.
Lots of people dislike with a strong look at Stephanie's face. Lots of people dislike the Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
They're like, Percy Jackson went off script, blah, blah. I read the books and then watched the movies. I'd watched the movies for years, but then I finally did this whole thing. And then I'm like, Percy Jackson goes off script a hell of a lot. And you guys don't get mad in Lord of the Rings. Sam and Frodo never have the fight that they have in that third movie. Excuse me. That does not happen. That was just...
I think...
That's just drama made for drama. What's her face never gets sick and almost dies. She is making a flag that is in the appendix. We just make drama for drama's sake. And it's very long.
I think for me personally, the movie did such a good job on so many things and overlook some of the...
I think messing with the Sam Frodo dynamic is unforgivable.
Well...
That is
But
key.
The Hobbit is also
small.
very near and dear to my heart, and I feel like they just could have left it and not extended it.
Yeah, I mean, some of the additions were definitely.
And I also think the Percy Jackson movies suck, so I guess it is.
Well, no, Percy.
I like what I like.
Not Percy Jackson. The guy, he did all of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies.
Peter Jackson.
Yeah, sorry. Peter Jackson.
Oh, yeah. I was like, wait,
sorry.
My bad. The Percy Jackson movies, the Peter Jackson, the director who did Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, he did all of it. And people are always mad about The Hobbit because he extended it and changed things. And I'm like, yeah, but he's been changing the Lord of the Rings since you let him touch it.
I'm sorry. I was like, I thought it was universally known that Percy
No, I was thinking about the Peter Jackson dude.
Yes, I was also confused.
Yeah.
This is who my brain is.
Too, at least it was one book per movie, and I think The Hobbit, it was one book, and they made it 3 movies, which also.
So here's the thing I like about The Hobbit. It actually explains why we're at the Lord of the Rings. Because nowhere in the Lord of the Rings books or in the Lord of the Rings movies do we explain how we get there. And seeing the little brown wizard in the Hobbit movies was very useful. It was very illuminating. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're great. Again, I think I give everything 7 out of 10. Like, I don't actually think any of them are better for me. I mean, the CGI is in theory worse, but I don't notice CGI because my brain, I think I've discovered with Ryan, my brain self-corrects. My brain has a processing power that takes the bad CGI and makes it good again in my brain, and I miss it. Like, I just... Because we were watching the new Thor, and he's like, sometimes the helmet was bad. She'd move her head, and the helmet wouldn't move with her. I'm like, my brain made it move with her, so it didn't happen.
That's a superpower in itself.
I don't know who did Mortal Engines.
I don't either, but
I think Peter Jackson also directed that.
I mean, nothing is quite as bad as the Eragon movie.
Oh, God. I forgot about that. Block that out of my memory.
And then Golden Compass movie was pretty bad. Not because it was all bad, but because they changed the ending of the book, which, again, I feel unforgivable.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, actually, there's a lot of small things I don't like in the Lord of the Rings movies that are changes, but I'm like, whatever, adaptations change. I do think making Sam and Frodo change their dynamic is a very big change. I think that's huge. So...
I like how we started off talking about a book and then just
veered
into the movie adaptation.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a very hot topic.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna go eat pasta, and then I have to go to Costco, which is, fun.
I gotta prime some more stuff. Gotta do some doors.
Priming is. I always regret not priming, but I always hate priming.
Yeah, it takes a while.
But it'll look so good when it's done.
I know. It already looks so much better. I can't emphasize enough just like how many holes were in the walls in that room.
I feel your pain. It wasn't walls, but at my mom's place, it's an old house. It's like built in the 50s. So it's really well made because the houses built in the 50s are well made. But the upstairs, this is before people liked hardwood floors. So the base is a hardwood floor and they put tiling on top of it. And every this far was a nail.
Oh, no.
And when we took off the tiling, I had to use the wood whole thing. This far.
No.
I listened to the Tarzan soundtrack in Spanish. That? Hardwood wasn't it, and then we had to put a hardwood over it because it was pretty sturdy, but still somehow my sibling put a hole in it by stepping wrong once, so we needed to reinforce it with a different. But truly, I listened to Tarzan in Spanish for a very long time to fill in every single hole, and this was after I had painted the walls because we always paint before we do floor things because that's what you do. So I feel your pain in terms of why are there so many holes? Just a different experience.
Yes. Well, instead of buying like a bulletin board or cork board, they were just sticking thumbtacks in the walls. So it was just like,
I mean, I know that frustrates you as the new homeowner. That's what I've done at every apartment I'm at. Yeah. So I do these things.
Yeah.
But the difference is in an apartment, they have people that fix it before you move in.
It is not me personally doing this.
Well, you chose to be a homeowner. How dare you?
That's what they did at my apartment. They had to completely redo the floors and everything before I moved in because the lady just trashed it. But
all right, bye, guys. Anyway. We should say bye to people. Yes. Amari, we're reading Amari.
Yes.
Date will be announced later.
Yep. Cool.